Well, hey everybody, welcome to the live. I don't want to call it a webinar. This is like you guys are going to get some pretty good gold nuggets here from the conversation that I'm going to have with Steve. And we're going to talk about things that are going to help you actually make money in your business. But Steve, welcome. Why don't you introduce
Curtis.
yourself? Come to the brag table. Why are people? Why is it that you're here, and why should people listen to you?
Oh, love it. Yeah. So thanks for having me on. Steve Gerten, CEO, owner of Agent Legend. We operate a real estate business. I'm in Minneapolis and St. Paul. And Agent Legend software product that helps with lead nurturing. And the reason why we want to join you guys and educate just the audience on just opportunity that's out there. Those lead opportunities that are furthest down the sales funnel and how to effectively work those for those that have an appetite for diversifying their lead mix. For our platform specifically, we're always looking at where are these leads funneling in from.
Yep.
Zillow, obviously, number one, Realtor.com will get plenty of those opportunities. But over the last, since the spring market really hit, we are seeing a huge influx in just expireds for sale by owners, canceled opportunities. And
Yep.
so that is like, obviously we're educating our customer base. We want to do some just cross-pollination with your universe. And just everybody knows the opportunities there, and it's the appetite of who's ready to work them. And we're here to just kind of share best practices, like actionable stuff that you could just plug and play into your business, into your market. And then we'll let it cascade down from there. But I know, in our business, we had gotten away from expireds. We had gotten away for sale by owners. We now have a whole team that's dedicated to that in our day-to-day real estate business. And we're seeing just remarkable results comparative to the years prior. So I think just having your expertise, lending credence here as well, and then we'll see
Yeah.
how people want to approach this as they're
Yeah.
looking at that opportunity for them.
Well, it's so great. And before anybody who's on, before you go, oh my goodness, another expired and FSBO, conversation. I think, expired and FSBOs never stopped being a great opportunity, but the way that you work them might have changed slightly over the years, right? And so we want to talk about that a little bit, but the best thing, so we're just going to jump right in, right? So thank you for being here. If you have a paper and pen, take a minute to take some notes here because we don't like to borrow your time unless we're giving back something that's actionable. We want you to be able to take things that you're going to hear today and actually implement it in your business, whether you ever do business with REDX or whether you ever do business with Agent Legend. But we're going to give you some things that are actually going to help you get listings because, list to last and insert all the other, sayings about listings, create freedom and all that. We want to help you get listing inventory and have that and be able to work your business the way that you dreamed of when you got in here with some freedom. So let's talk about expires and FSBOs. I've been talking a lot lately, Steve, about how agents need to stop thinking like influencers, trying to get views and silly dances on TikTok, and views don't mean business all the time. We've been talking about how they need to stop thinking like an old school prospector, and that this is from a guy who this is my, um, in a couple weeks I'll hit my 20-year anniversary in this industry,
Hmm.
helping people get listings primarily from expireds and FSBOs and all the leads and data that REDX is involved in. But we're actively saying you've got to stop thinking like an old school prospector where you've got to have this mentality that I'm going to just chew glass every single day. I'm just going to grind through it and I'm going to white knuckle and I'm going to call all these people and I'm going to, get yelled at and then I'm going to go. So you take that and you go, well, then if you can't think like an influencer, if you can't think like um, a prospector, I'm saying, well, you should think like a marketer first. And
Yep.
I'm biased. That's my background is in marketing. And I go, but in marketing, we think about the audience first. Don't worry about how. Don't worry about how you're going to get their attention or how you're going to get them in the door or how you're going to get them to communicate with you. But we first have to think of an ICP, an ideal customer profile.
Hmm.
If you sold cookies, out of a brick and mortar shop, you got to be thinking about, well, who buys cookies? Who am I going to cater to? Who am I? You got to choose the audience first, right? Um, and so when we talk about that, we go, I just asked a question. I go, Steve, well, if you could choose an audience, do you want to choose people who are just looking or choose people who need to transact in the
Yep.
business?
Yeah.
And when we start to say that, you go, okay, well, right now we're at historical low turnover rates, 2.7% as of May last
Hmm.
month. So 2.77% in the country turnover rate. That's lower than it's ever been. It's lower than it was 40 years ago, even though we have, 75 million more homeowners in the United States. So if you said, well, if I gave you 100 people to talk to, do you want to talk to 100 people in a neighborhood where
Yeah.
three of them might sell their home this year? Or here are the numbers with expires and FSBOs. If you want to talk to 100 expireds right now in the United States, over 45% are ending up on the MLS
Hmm.
within 6 weeks, an average time of 6 weeks. So you go, okay, well, if you could talk to 100 expireds and cancel, that's expired and canceled. Expired actually is a higher relist rate, but if we want to group that in, there's massive opportunity with the expireds and canceleds. And you go, well, 45% of them are going to pick an agent and go back on the MLS. And FSBOs right now is just under 30%. And that's only the listing side. That's not counting everybody who will buy a buyer's, pay a buyer's commission on the for sale by owner side. Just how many of them pick an agent and end up on the MLS? It's 29%. And there's there's a lot of AI out there. There's a lot of predictive models out there, but nobody is predicting a list of saying, hey, here's 100 people, and we know definitively that 45 of them are going to end up on the MLS in the next 40, 2 days. But we know that definitively with expireds. So when you think like a marketer, you go, okay, well, that's an audience I want to be around. My question for you, Steve, is how has it changed over the years of if it's like, okay, well, I see the opportunity. How has working them changed?
Yeah. So a couple of things that is I think when you think about the business strategy overall for those that are in attendance, it kind of depends on who you are. Like, what are you comfortable doing? Like, yes, ICP fastest path to revenue are going to be they're already showing intent, right? There's no predictive model if I listed my home. So
Right.
like, yeah, let's of course there. But I think just for everybody here, it's like the content strategy and social influence, that's still part of your strategy. But when it
Yep.
comes down to those that have a pipeline that is drying up, or you need to start thinking about the next 6 months, that then this absolutely is one of maybe 5 or 6 different revenue generating sources for your business. So like think revenue sources, you got Sphere, you got portal leads can be a part of that if you want a number of different opportunities that are in there. And then you have this sweet spot and this niche of those that know how to work these and can get their mind space out of well, it's a bloodbath. These folks, I don't want to pester them or bother them. And I want to unpack that too and share like some of those scripting techniques around like what is that actual problem that you need to solve for these people instead of just calling and hoping for the best. As we think about our platform, so Agent Legend, we are a communications platform. We deploy messaging. And in the olden days, 3, 4, 5 years ago, right before we acquired the business, you could deploy messaging really efficiently. Text messages were newish, and now folks are getting bombarded with that type of messaging, and so you can no longer just automate these things.
Yeah.
And so what we've seen a pivot in ours, and we're going to talk about some of the strategies as it relates to getting in front of these people, how you stay in front of them, but it is understanding like what is the problem for those leads that we need to solve, and you can't assume anything, and that's come I you guys have the classes within REDX and stuff that helps people understand how to do that. And then it's a matter of consistency. So like where we see is like very rarely is it going to be, I'm going to send out one campaign and I'm going to produce a 25% response rate. We see the highest responses coming about a week after the data comes through their system. The first touches are still important, but if you put yourself in that seller's shoes, my mindset and what we see in our data is like, well, they're exhausted perhaps, and they want the dust settle a little bit, and those that can stay in front of them and actually develop the rapport and understanding what problem they had. And then it's coming up with some sort of solution for them, right? 101 marketing 101, problem
Yeah.
solution,
Yep.
book, story, offer, what's going on in your life. And data can tell you some of that, but it's being able to get the response and then being able to remain consistent in how you're handling those objections along the way. So we've seen, like I said, the volume of expireds are going up, and we're seeing response rates going up as well. And the response rates are just through the tactics that our customers are using or our clients are using in order to gain a response. And so think about when you're just calling, a lot of folks will put on the headset, they'll press dial, and they're dialing for dollars. Dialing is important. Don't stop doing that. But when you have an omni-channel communication strategy, so deploying a series of calls followed by a text, video texts are out there, they're available to you. Emails coming back as well. We're seeing open rates and clicks on emails because traffic is shifting from tech. A lot of people are like, I just want to text, I want to text, I want to text on your phone now. Think about all the inboxes that exist for the consumer. So don't eliminate that. It's one channel, email,
Right.
call, and now you have direct mail on steroids, which has been our sweet spot and how
Yep.
we've seen our customers that they would historically buy what from REDX, right? Get the expireds, run them through a direct mail campaign that's generic in nature. And now you have advanced capabilities with handwritten letters. The strategy that we've really seen some traction on is overlaying that tactic with everything else and
Yeah.
getting the requisite response. You get the response, and now you get your opportunity to book an appointment and secure that business for those that are going to stick it out.
Love it. I mean, you're speaking my love language here. The omnipresence is so important right now. I read recently Forbes had an article that said that in the average American is exposed to between 6 and 10,000 advertisements per day.
Yep. Yeah. We're
And
immune
and
to them.
and we can't every sales book out there is like, oh well, 7 to 12 touches. That doesn't even exist anymore. I'm Most experts are thinking it's closer to 30 to 50 touches. And the way that you can hack that is one, the omnipresent being multiple channels, where the people are, but then the messaging starts to become really important. Just like you said, it's understanding their problem, speaking to the problem. I don't need 50 touches to if I'm sorry, I don't know how much that noise is coming through. I'm
No, we're not
at
getting it.
an airport. Um the if I am embarrassed, which by the way, from our uh surveys we've done with expired homeowners, is the primary emotion that an expired listing is feeling when they expire. They're embarrassed. That
Hmm.
comes out as frustration or anger or everything, but they've spent 6 months saying goodbye to their whole neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
And their kids are telling everybody I'm moving, and everybody knows, and then all of a sudden the sign comes down, and they're embarrassed. um and but if I understand that and I can meet them where they're at with the messaging in multiple places, then your chances go exponentially up. And we're seeing this, just to validate what you're saying, Steve. We're seeing this. I mean, we still have a lot of people who just call or just mail, or just target on social media, and they'll get business. But the
Yep.
ones that are really climbing, really differentiating, and really listing a lot of the expireds are the ones that are doing a multi-channel approach.
Yep.
Um, but so we want to talk about that. I want to break it down into kind of a step by step, because I want to talk about how do you get their attention, the hand raise. But then I think where you bring a lot of expertise in what you're doing is, people are losing in the follow up, as they always do. It's that follow up communication. And so I want to talk about that, but let's break it down. I have a list. Maybe people subscribe to REDX, or somewhere else and they have a list of expired listings. I've got their phone number, I got their email address, you know, let's talk to me about what agents should be doing to win with that list.
Yeah, so this is what we encountered in our business, right? We would bring on a team and we'd say, here are the leads, go have at it. It's a problem. You need to make sure you have, I mean, the plan, right? Is like, what is your plan before you're even getting started with this? What is your unique value proposition to this homeowner? You don't quite know the headache that they have, right? Why that listing expired, why they canceled, why they did that yet, but that's part of the exploration. But making sure that the moment you pick up the phone, you're not just gonna it's a well-rounded strategy in terms of like where are you directing this person if they say, yeah, I'm open to learning more about you. So a lot of folks would direct them to, hey, after you get on the phone with them, you have a quick exploration call, you want to try to book the meeting, get over there for the conversation. We see folks that they might have that guard up. They've gotten 15 other people that are reaching out to them and they don't even have their head screwed on straight. And so how do you, because what we've heard anecdotally and just in our business is like think about that mindset for that person you mentioned, they're embarrassed. It may have been a personal relationship with the previous representative for their house. Um, but now, strike two, they're thinking a lot more intuitively about who they're going to select. And so if you don't have that knowledge and you haven't practiced your scripting on just if you got them on the phone, because you're going to be in front of them at some point, is just making sure that you know how to build and say, here's how exactly I help X. You don't help sellers because this is no longer just a normal seller. It is an expired. This is a specific person. And so what we've done in a shift, and this is something y'all can create with if you're good with AI or anything, go in there. You can create landing pages like nobody's business now. And you can find the specific pain points of these individuals and you can build pages out that if anybody responds, you direct them to that source because now they're more in research mode. They're very Imagine if you just had a relationship A that didn't work out, you're moving on to possibly relationship B. The due diligence they're going to be doing, it's there. And so the question
Yep.
and answer and making sure you're prepared, that's something that we hadn't thought of. We would still do it. You had mentioned, Curtis, is like we just dial. We'd get a 3 to 5% response. We'd book an appointment, whether that appointment held or not was it's TBD because
Yeah.
now people are more inherent of like, I got you on the phone. I need to get you off the phone as soon as I can. I'll say yes to anything, but it's a soft yes. And so that's one that like we've seen results and appointments holding and the ultimate successful listing on just what is that value proposition, making sure that it's documented somewhere so you can direct traffic towards that, just like a sales landing page, very simple stuff. And then it's the follow up. It's the follow up and the follow up. And there's two mindsets is like set tasks in your CRM or whatever platform that you're using. Have a team of ISAs, have an AI assistant. We're seeing some of that come into fruition. The jury's still out on results. We're measuring what those results can be. But in our world, it's automation. It's showing up when you say you're going to show up because a lot of agents don't. They're distracted by the shiny objects. And so just making sure you do the thing that you say you're going to do, and that ultimate follow up. But I think just to summarize all that is like
Yeah. Yeah.
make sure anybody, and I'm always brainstorming with people. I can go to your website, and if I'm not perfectly clear, passing the grunt test, you're a marketer, right? What's the book that I'm thinking of? Marketing Made Simple by
Market made simple.
yeah.
Donald Miller.
If I can't go to your site and I don't understand, right? A lot of people say like we're the number one real estate team in Enter City.
Yeah.
Think about we are the best at assisting expired listings.
Yeah.
Here's why. This is why we're different. And here's a call to action.
Yeah.
Do that and see. And we see that. We just see the communications that are going through. We see the click-through rates. And we see the requisite responses that folks are getting. That's been
Yeah.
outstanding for our users.
Well, and something you said, I think really plays again to the marketer in me is that people when they're now in a position to be in research mode, and expireds are definitely there. They're contemplative. They're self-aware. which also is what makes them another great lead, right? They're more willing to be realistic about their pricing. They're more willing to be realistic to listen to the expert this time around. But those same things put them in this, they're going to scrutinize things a little bit differently. And understanding the mindset of people allows you to create messaging that will relate to them. And so that landing page is such a big deal because of that. But it's also more relevant now in all marketing. And so if people, people aren't following a lot of this probably the way that we do, Steve, but the buyer behavior is different now. Even AI has drastically changed the way that most people are going to research and understand and questions answered. The time that they're taking to make an appointment with the right person is growing. And we're seeing that statistically. We're seeing the people who are going to relist with the same agent are relisting faster. The people who
Hmm.
the people who are going to choose a new agent are taking longer to make that decision, right?
Yep.
And that's true of all marketing across the board. Sales cycles are increasing because people want to feel like I've gathered enough information to make a good decision. Now you pile that on top of the expired who is thinking they don't want to admit they made a bad decision. They want to blame the last agent. But either way, they want the information. And so what I would say, just to reiterate, one of the things that's changed is before a lot of the technique that was taught for years and years and years was only give them enough and get the appointment. Only give them enough, get the appointment. Give them enough, get the appointment. But that's not what people want anymore. They
Yep.
they want more information. And the more information you provide, the more you're going to set yourself apart as the expert of what they're doing, which is why we even suggest some of the content that you can have and deliver, and maybe this is part of some of your automations, is giving them telling them, hey, here's the top 10 questions you need to ask your next real estate agent.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
know, like you need to help them, and they go, oh, well, I've been thinking about this. I've been thinking about what do I need to consciously or subconsciously, they're thinking about what do I got to ask the next person so that I'm not in the same situation again. Well, if you're like, well, here's the top 10 questions and not garbage content, like really think about this. It does two things. One, you better be able to answer those 10 questions really well as an agent. But two, it's making them feel confident that you're the expert.
Yep. So let me there's a couple things. I see Mike Klein's question too, is just examples of problems sellers need to solve. It's like, well, they need to probably sell their house, right? That's a problem.
Yep.
But we've seen there are a lot. It's not always they need to sell now and they need it done. It's availability. Um, it's financials, understanding like the financials of what goes into the sale and actually truly making sure that I've seen that, right? Where it deals a lot of time and energy, the education from the agents, whether you're raw, like you're new to the industry or you're 20 years in like yourself, right? Is the competency factor around that. What we've instilled in our real estate practice is a team approach to everything. And so like specialists, we go back to like there's a difference between somebody who works expireds and knows the emotional intelligence required, the EQ, right? The EQ required to work that opportunity versus somebody who's just working off of sphere-based opportunities. They're going to consistently get 15 to 20 transactions a year just by shaking hands and kissing babies. That's great. But that's just again one revenue source. Now, as you think about these others, so like we would bring over multiple people, right? We had the luxury of an inspecting. We have ownership in an inspection business, and we would bring them with, and we'd have that as an offer. Hey, let us come in because there's three things that may have impacted your sale last, right? And it is the price, right? That's the most common, but it's condition and motivation as well. And so if you don't have somebody who's truly motivated, a lot of people in our team is guilty of this. We'll chase that. We just want the listing agreement, and I want to be able to post on social media that I got a listing and come and see it. But if that seller's not motivated and the price is wrong, we're in big trouble, and there's no revenue to be had there. And so We would bring somebody over, point out things that they probably, or maybe they didn't. Maybe the previous agent was just, providing the feedback, or maybe they didn't provide the feedback. And there's an education opportunity there to say, regardless of if you list with us, it doesn't matter. But here are 10 things that are going to impact you being able to reach that price that you want. We can get there. And let me help you solve that problem. And now you have the next problem was like, well, where do I get the money to pay for that? Get creative, right? We've found that you can find financing options that there's existing financing options that are out in your market. Reach out to whoever, right, that you need to. You can just Google, the repair, like the repair companies. They'll give you a high interest loan, repair what you need to, and then you pay them back at closing. And those are tools in your toolkit that a lot of folks they forget about. Maybe they're not as educated. Maybe your broker isn't educating, or your team, whoever that is, but those exist. And so, I take that as like whatever there's a problem, there's a solution, and they're not that far. Like it just makes sure that goes back into the planning and preparation of what you do. That team mentality it helps with when you show up to get that done. And then just making it risk free is kind of the final one, right? You see a lot of we guarantee we'll do X, Y, and Z. Now, depends where you fall on the spectrum of that. But if you have a guaranteed offer in your back pocket, making sure that you kind of frame that up and to say, like, that's our backup plan. That's the backup plan. But those programs exist to, again, solve whatever that problem is that you hear on the call. And that's going to help with the conversion versus just book the appointment, hope that it sticks. And what's the likelihood that we're actually going to get to the closing table? Because when you look at how much time it still takes to get that property listed to closing, it's another 30 to 60 days of time and energy that you have to put in. And you need to make sure that you're not just working with a tire kicker. There's a lot of those that are out there too. They're dreaming of what 5 years ago when prices were, I mean, you list a home or 2 days even before you listed, it would go. And now um, you're seeing tremendous opportunity for those that have the emotional intelligence. They can communicate with their seller during the transaction or during the listing process, to just retain that relationship along the way as well. So I know I kind of jumped around to a few different ones. I saw Mike's comment on just
Yeah,
problems.
yeah, problems.
Jump into the chat, guys, if there's more like things that you've encountered as you're dialing or as you're considering them. I can continue to throw out examples of, what we see live, but also, right, we see, I think I asked our team how many campaigns that we have running specifically for expireds right now. We have like 2,500 going on. And so, what are they saying? What are they doing? We try to coach the ones that have poor performance, and rinse and repeat the ones that are more predictable. But those are some of the things that are tangible and things that you can just immediately plug into your strategy.
Awesome. Mike's asking you to repeat the three things that are the reason a home doesn't sell.
Condition. So are we dealing with again, price is going to be the most common condition, and motivation. I think if I get I'm terrible at reciting analogies that I've heard, but it's like a three-legged, it's your stool, right? And you can't successfully transact. If one of those legs is gone, you have no chance. And so just
Yeah,
making sure you're in alignment. Uh, there's people, I mean, people always they fall back on, oh, your listing agent priced it wrong. Well, the seller also was in agreement on that. And we always, a popular line that we've used is like, you name the price and we'll help dictate the terms of that agreement that might be able to get you that price. But there's
right.
always price and terms that are really key. And when people, as your prospect, when they hear those questions asked back to them and they have to continue to rationalize in their own mind, just shut your mouth for a few minutes, let them talk, and you're going to just get a tremendous amount of information back from them.
Yeah,
And now you just use that to again, you are an advisor at the end of the day. And sometimes no
yeah,
works really, really well, whether it's a no to this opportunity. Let somebody else deal with that shit. Let one of your competitors deal with it because that's going to distract them. Go do that. And let's focus on the real ones,
yeah,
folks
yeah,
that want to exit.
yeah,
Um, and then just making sure that they trust you because you don't want to get into a situation where you've invested money in photos, staging, whatever it is, and then they cancel midway through because maybe an aunt surfaced at a barbecue or a grad party these days. So keep that in
I
mind.
just to add to Mike's question here, three things we, and again, sorry for being the nerdy data guy all the time, but it's kind of our business. Is we know that if a listing, if a home goes back on the market with a new agent, that in the last 12 months, that there's a 50% increase in probability that that home will sell than if they list with the same agent.
Why
So,
is that?
so,
That's mind blowing to me.
and
Keep it
and
going. Yeah.
and that is true whether the price is the same, the price is increased, or the price is decreased.
Mm,
And so price is a huge factor for getting a home sold no matter what. But I bring that up to say the other two factors are bigger than people might think. And we sometimes lump that in terms of the marketing of that, and in the marketing of the home, that's your curb appeal. Photography is way more important than people think. And so what happens is you relist with the same agent. Um, like 9 out of 10 times they use the same photography that they used the
right.
first time they listed. Well,
Hmm.
one of the major differences when someone else lists the home, they're forced to go out and get new photos. New photos create new opportunities. So, so I say that because these are all things that you're helping solve the problems for, and it could be curb appeal, and it could be those other things. And I love what you said about bringing people on. I think you know it, bringing a photographer, bringing a stager, somebody, and you don't have to pay for those. They'll get paid if if they end up getting the business. But all it does is that team aspect. I'm coming in. We have an army of people that's going to help solve all of your problems, right?
Yeah.
And now you're the facilitator of the solutions. Let the photographer tell you that the last picture sucked. Like you don't have to be the bearer of that bad news to let them know that their aunt really sucked at taking pictures. Let the professional do that, and then all of a sudden you become the facilitator of the solutions, and they start to look to you. And as soon as you do that, right? As soon as then they'll start asking you, well, what else do you think I should do here? Right? And as soon as they start asking you those questions, you better list that home because you got it.
Mm.
You know.
So,
Um,
so let me do one thing, and I'll go back to. I'm going to just say that the A team, we call it the A team, the inspector one. Just a tip that helped us remarkably was like we would say, hey, we'll come over and let us go through your house, right? Like that can be a barrier, right?
yeah,
We would offer and say, like, let them just walk around the house. You already know that I know where you live, so I could drive by anytime. Let them walk around the house. We'll send them out. And then what that did for us was it allowed us an excuse to reach out, right? Something that would be like, hey, here are the 10 things that we found that I think, I believe that if we fix these things, you're going to have success, whether it's with us or not. So not
yeah,
assuming that we would get the business. But people always ask, well, I don't have an inspector. You're referring these guys so much money that if they don't step up, go find a new one. I can go out and Google 10 of them. I got a buddy who's thinking about being an inspector or inspecting property. So, like, keep that in mind. I got a window person, I got a door person, siding, you name it. Pest control, you can find them. And when you leverage your partners, whether you're paying them or not, you do pay them because you refer them deals. Leverage those relationships is really, really helpful. And it makes you appear as if you are the expert, even though you might have that complex that you aren't. Those little things we've implemented and it's helped this strategy. It's just like I mentioned, we're not pausing everything else. It's just how we've improved the sunk costs that we previously had of buying expireds. Are we working them the right way? One question I have for you, Curtis, is the how long do people work expired leads? And I'm not doing this to tee up anything on our end because I
yeah,
see
yeah,
people that will run they'll run communications for maybe a week or two or three. And then they assume that like, hey, that person's probably found a new solution. It's not worth me investing more in that relationship. But I've also seen folks that have like 2 year long nurturing, and it's like frequency is quite high during the beginning, right? That they just canceled or it just expired. And so we're going to hammer them and we're in the mix with all the other agents that are calling them. And then they might do a weekly, then to a monthly cadence, but they're still checking in with those folks. Now,
yeah.
what's your take and how should people think about like when is the data stale, aged?
Yeah.
How do I think about that? I don't know if you have input there.
I have so much. So stop me if we go along here on a tangent. Look, there's a few things. I think historically, when you look at the last 2 decades of the coaching and training organizations that have been teaching expireds, who I admire, who I'm partnered with. So I'm not saying anything bad, but until COVID, right up until everything shut down, um, the advice was, look, call 3 times and throw out the lead.
That was the advice?
Yeah. Oh, for years and years and years, it was like, what? Because there's always more expires to cancel. Just move on. Just find the people who say yes,
Yes.
and
Got it.
move on. And I actually, that may not be bad advice. It's just incomplete,
Hmm.
right? And the reason it's incomplete is because of software like yours, where automation can create opportunity over time that before, if you're wasting too much time, then that was bad. Because I think there's a lot of agents that hold on to hope way too long. Like
Hmm.
you've got to be able to know when to fold them, you know? Like
Yeah.
you've got to you've got to um you yeah, you've got to be able to put them in a different bucket, right? And whether you call that your A, B, or C, or your likely, maybe, or long-term nurture type, whatever the bucket is, but you are very active and very involved in the beginning bucket
Hmm.
because because you can't automate a relationship. And no matter what, no matter what we are doing in this business, and no matter what AI tools and automation tools, we have to have relationships with our clients,
Yeah.
right? And they're showing that even the younger generations that are, we think that are just all tech, all they want, they're actually showing, studies are showing they want more human connection than the older generations, even, because the trust comes from when I am in a relationship and face to face. So you're very involved, and if you prolong that too long, you're wasting time that you could be spending on other opportunities.
Hmm.
And so if it's not progressing, you dump them in the other bucket, and the other bucket is where automation supports the relationship, triggers things to let you know, like, I need to reach out again.
Yep.
And that's why they buy your softwares, to automate some of those communications, in kind of different buckets. But I would say that the average, we know that the average expired and canceled, I'm not even going to lie to you. I'm going to look it up. I get this every single week in a report. I'm going to tell you exactly what it is right now.
While you're doing that, the this is a pivot in what we instituted was we would purge the data, right? We'd say dial them. That's why I asked who was the coach. We probably had the same coaches that were implemented in our business.
Yeah, yeah,
But at the end of the day, you paid for a homeowner you paid for the data, right? And so
yeah,
we used to just get rid of it. And now what's going on, for those that, you see all the consolidation taking place, like data is an asset, no matter where it lives, how you
yep,
use it. What we've done is, again, I mentioned expireds for sell by owners, cancels are kind of, they live in their own team, right? But we weren't cross promoting our team. So think about, you're likely buying expireds in a certain geography or farming,
yep,
where you're farming there. What we would do is, well, let's leverage our active agents, the ones listing the properties, and they come with a zip code, and you can geo target now. And so that gives you more excuse to reach out with
yep,
meaningful information, right? And so people think about that and they're like, oh, that's tough to do. No, it's
yeah,
not. There's tech, there's in whatever CRM you use, first and foremost, you should be able to assist you with this. But within our platform, we make sure that you can see every contact. If they have an address, you can see them geo mapped, and then what status they're in, and then you can cater your marketing to them. So personalization. So imagine your team is farming. I'll use my neighborhood, Browndale Park neighborhood in Minneapolis. You get a listing there, you got your sign out front, and there might be five other expireds within a half mile listing that you purchased previously. doesn't matter if they transacted with somebody else. It gives you an excuse to reach out to that person. I always call it the random acts of marketing. Get away from that nonsense. You have to have value when you're communicating with leads. But that's one that assisted us in closing the loop. And I don't have the specific data, but we would anecdotally be like, where did that lead come from? Well, it was an expired lead that we got a year and a half ago. We had been, whether they're in email communications, a database, a database marketing like a Fellow or a Homebot or some of those other platforms that kind of, nurture the database in general.
Yeah.
They're clicking on stuff, and then it gave us an excuse to reach out. And then they said, great, well, for timing, whatever the reason is, they reactivated. And so think about those things as well of, not just getting rid of that information because, the paydays can be quite lucrative as well as you think about it. But go ahead, Curtis, you were looking up some stuff there.
Well, I was looking at the data. So we know right now in the whole country, looking at the last 12 months as of the, 6 days ago, the average days before an expired or canceled goes back on the MLS is 41 days. And so to have
41 days, sorry, 41 days from the date that it was canceled, it'll
it,
be back up on the MLS.
and that's the average, right? The average days to list.
Okay.
The average days for a FSBO from the moment they first try to sell their home on their own is 49 days.
Hmm.
Right. So you have this 6 week-ish period where you should have pretty strong communication. And if it's not going anywhere, then that's when you dump them into a longer term nurture. That could go forever because we have a tremendous amount of success on old expireds. Hey, you
Hmm.
tried to sell your home a year ago, you know, like
Hmm.
what was the plan back then? And so so I wish I could give you a day um, to answer your question, but I would say if in that first cycle of trying to create a relationship, you don't figure out their motivation, why they're selling, their timeline of that, then those are triggers you go, let's dump them into a long-term nurture. But as soon as you find out it's vacant, I already bought another house. Like,
Yeah.
okay, you know,
Right.
motivation is high, they must sell. And as soon as there's must sell indication, then I would go really strong for that full 6 weeks before you dump them into a longer term nurture bucket.
Yeah. Brilliant.
So
I like it. That's
hey,
great.
before we run out of time, look, you said something in the beginning that so sorry for attendees if this feels a little bit like a pivot in the conversation, but I want to make sure that we get to this. And Steve does a lot of direct mail,
Hmm.
right? You mentioned mail and that you're doing that.
Yeah.
I know right now people may not know this. Brand recognition from a postcard versus a digital ad is your 50% brand recognition on a digital ad versus 71%
Hmm.
brand recognition on a marketing mail piece because we just don't get the junk mail we used to. It's almost
Yeah.
exciting to get mail anymore, especially if it's especially a good postcard. I love postcards or handwritten stuff, but a postcard is like you have 100% exposure rate. They're going to look at it
Yeah.
before it goes in the garbage, and if you can
Yep.
appeal to the emotional state they're in, you got them. So
Yeah.
talk to me about mail, and some of the handwritten stuff that you guys are doing. I think
Yeah.
that's extremely successful and probably the best thing we could leave people with before we run out of time.
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, so background on even where my career took me is I was in printing for a long time, and we would do a ton of direct mail, a lot of real estate companies that we were working with. Direct mail is really efficient. Folks think that print is dead, digital is cheaper. You know, I don't care how, again, measurement is the biggest thing. So, like, what is your actual ROI on those executions? Having the attribution, attribution so key. What are the actual results? If I put $1 in, will this generate $5? Will it generate $2? Right? Those are the decisions that we need to make. And so we still direct mail is one of our key pillars, right? And there's a number of different types of direct mail. So we'll deploy out, think low cost per piece, mass, same creative across all of them. You can do now with direct mail, you have merge field capabilities that most of you are probably familiar with, where you can dynamically put in name, maybe property value, interest rate. There's all sorts of little things that you can input in there. Personalization on these pieces is big. So the data component, Curtis, right? You guys provide data on the property. What we've invested really heavily in is think about big data, right? When you are opting into cookies, when you're opting in with your credit card, your buying behavior, you probably wondered why companies know so much about you, and they can target you better. That goes back, Curtis, right, to the marketing messages that you get. We're also deaf to them because we're getting inundated, but the ones that stick out to us are the ones that were like topical, relevant, and personalized to who I am. So what we do is we have, 90% of our direct mail is going to be the generic, less than $1 per piece. And you can do that. There's a ton of incredible platforms out there that do that. Where we've taken it is just because we're personalization. Agent Legend for 15 years has been how do we help you scale your personalized outreach through the channels that we have, which were primarily digital. So text, video text, voice, and email. We've now basically have a print facility that is actual real pen to paper, big pen to paper. They're robots that will write these letters. So think a postcard that has your branding in it, and just it's enveloped. It's got postage. A lot of you probably know what these look like. There's other companies that are out there. We've just taken it so it's real estate specific. We work with both real estate brokerages and mortgage brokerages, and when we turn this on for the expireds, what it's done is it is 4x the response rate that we were historically getting with omni-channel. Still do it, right? If you're doing direct
Right.
mail and all these others, don't stop doing that. We 4x just our responses because it was a little delayed. So by the time we get the data and then we send it, we kind of avoided the high traffic time. Again, that's anecdotal. But ultimately, it was the personalization, Bic pen, right? Writing on it. We have our phone number in there and we track it directly to that piece. And the results we've seen are just better. So you get that emotional connection because who doesn't like the old
Yep.
school, this agent was sitting at their desk? Because we had been doing that. I had my agents that we'd preach, send 10 handwritten letters a day to your
Yep.
sphere.
Yep.
And we still do that. It has been the best investment that we could make with the strategies that we've been deploying. And now we've just kind of baked it into our product. So it allows you to either scale like a direct mail. I have my expired batch list of leads. I run them through a campaign. Now we have just the secret sauce, as it were, of like what we tell our clients are like the predictability of, the copy that we put into the letters. You don't have to do that. We know what works and what doesn't. So we've already done that for the
Yep.
users. You can do it in batch, but you can also do it one off. So we do this as well, where think about how printing works in direct mail. It's like you have to hit a minimum or there's a minimum buy because it's not economical for most of those companies to do it. Well, because we've got these robots, and if we have a robot that's not on, you can do one off. So what we do is we'll do expireds, we'll get the batch. And then when we get a response or we get a call or a meeting, we just put a tag in our CRM or a stage, however you have your setup done. And that just automates another letter that can go out to them. Hey, thank you for your time. Or, that inspector example that I used of like, so and so saw your property. It's beautiful. We'd love to represent you. And there's two things that happen is either that person says, thank you, but we're relisting with our agent that we were previously working with, or maybe they found somebody else. That stuff happens. But what also happens is we've gotten referrals of people that either they keep the letter, or it's just like, hey, wasn't right for me. Here's somebody else that has it. And so costs a little bit higher, but not exponentially. They run about $2 to $3 a piece. And it's just when we talk about your capabilities at your disposal, we're not saying don't do any of them. Time and place, right person, right message, right time. And so that's just been, again, if we're going to pitch anything, it's like test it, test and learn, and see if the results are actually producing for you, and then scale from there. So we know when we do letters on our expireds specifically, we're getting a 4x higher response rate. And of those responses, we're holding meetings 25% higher than others, right? So if we just get you on the phone, they're trying to give me the Heisman to say, yeah, book a meeting 8 a.m. on next Wednesday. I don't even give a shit, but they don't care. It's
Yeah.
different with the letter. I don't know why. All anecdotal. So that's really it.
Well,
And so again, you've mentioned how we we got all these AI solutions. A lot of folks use our system for they're running scale through this. It still works. This is a lot more personalized, intentional, and you got to be a lot more focused on who you're reaching out to. But expireds have been a really great use case. For sale by owners, we don't have a lot of results on that yet. For us, we really focus on that expireds and canceleds.
Yeah, yeah, love it. Well, that's the highest list rate. Nope, nobody's touching that. A poll just popped up. If you're interested in learning more about REDX, we want these to be incredibly valuable and not the full demos here, but we do want the opportunity to work with you. So if you're interested in REDX and getting more of the data and having these opportunities, select REDX. If you want to know more about Agent Legend and their communications platform and all of this automation. And really, if you want those things to work together, click the both, and then we'll have somebody reach out to you. Um, but but I think um, yeah. Before I end my thought, Steve, any last words of wisdom for people who have been here? They're going, okay, that was a lot of information. I also saw that you guys gave away some free campaigns in the chat. So if you missed that, if you're watching, go click those links. Definitely go get those free
Yeah,
campaigns.
yeah,
If you want to
those are
speak to
just
that,
those
go
are the
ahead.
campaigns I mentioned. So
Okay.
thanks. I think Amber had posted those, but no credit card, nothing. Just steal those. Just
Yeah.
copy and paste into whatever doc you want to use. Those are just plug and play for anybody who wants to activate against them. No, I think um, I'd love to unpack a little bit more on like why, expireds are back. Why? Again, we always talk about channel mix diversification, but why and who should be working these, right? Right people, right seats. I think just understanding like who's going to have the most success in working these opportunities within an organization. And then you use the tools selectively, the ones that can help you generate predictive results, the ones, we're seeing so much tech dude bros at the coffee shop that are vibe coding and releasing technology, and it can be distracting. I think for your company as well as Agent Legend, and we've been around for damn well 20 years now at Agent Legend, and REDX probably longer than us, and been doing this. You know what you do. You stay in your lane, and you do it exceptionally well. And so, just for those that are considering what their options look like, we're very sensitive about flashy or shiny objects. Just ask for results and predictability. And that's really it. And that will help you scale your business, both near term revenue, but also just improving the value as you continue to scale your own operation as well. So, really appreciate this. This is, I know we're in the weeds on some of this stuff, but again, reach out to our teams, our support team on our end. We know what works and what doesn't. So,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you, Curtis, for bringing us on. This is a really great
Yeah.
use of time, and happy to stick around if there's any questions. So,
Yeah. And for everybody else, look, attention is the highest form of currency in today's economy. That's why we're talking about these things. How do you get the attention of the people who are most likely to do business with you? But we recognize that you paid attention to us today, and we're grateful for that. And we hope that there was value there. If you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. I know there was some questions again that are getting into the weeds. So we may not get to all of the questions, but I will tell you this, that you should definitely reach out to Agent Legends if you have a communication void in your business, which I would say that 99% of agents that I meet have a problem with lead follow-up and the amount of communication that it takes right now in order to convert leads to clients and in order to keep clients happy, in order to maintain relationships with those clients after the transaction. It is taking way more because most people are only seeing a small percentage of the communication that you're sending over anyway. So you need to be omnipresent and you need to be using all the channels and you need to do that. So I would encourage you to reach out to Agent Legends and see everything that they have to offer that will help you convert the leads. We love it because if you're getting the expired list from us and we're doing all the research and getting all the data and the insights, then you'll convert them better, and everybody stays happier longer. So
yeah.
um, let's see if there's any questions left in there.
I saw what about the best way to overcome age and years of experience in expireds and for sale by owners.
Yeah.
Do you have a good one for that, Curtis?
Yo, take it. I'll tell you, you go first and then I'll tell you what I think.
Yeah, I mean, I typically will answer like, what does that have to do with
Yeah.
actually transacting your home? Results.
Yeah.
Results matter. And so that points to, so Jillian, I'm a big like one sheet. You heard me say landing page, like because my mind, I'm doing 90 things as it is. Document it. Come up with that material that you have, and that unique value proposition. Like I would use the fact that like this is going to be my baby. You don't
Yeah.
have to worry about me being distracted and this just being something that's a tertiary to do on my list. So that's it. Age, like that's easy now. You just hit it on like the fact that like if you know tech and you know those variables and there's certain dogs in the industry that they're just stuck in their ways. So you can use that to your advantage and get creative. Always happy, with the, specifics as we learn more about you as well. But, hopefully that's a little bit additive to what maybe you're going through.
Yeah. No, you would approach it the same way I would. Like, I'm, are you concerned about the age or is your real concern about getting the right results? Well,
Yeah.
results. Right. And then the other thing is if you have the A team like Steve talked about, um, I know people have to like read between the lines on some of the stuff we talked about today, but there was a lot in here. Like if they understood the power of having that A team, you go, well, how long have you been in the business? How long? Oh, well, me, I've only been in the business. This is my first year, but the team that my company or my office has put around me has decades and decades of experience, right? And if you and you can include all of those other people. Well, I work with an inspector and a stager and a photographer that have been, have decades of experience, and so you can borrow that authority quite a bit, from your office, from your broker, from your team, from your A team that you've put together of your vendors, everything. So that's a great
Yep.
question. Um,
We had one that said omni-channel perspective on door knocking. Uh, I'm a hard proponent of never doing that, unless I'm selling pest control or fiber internet or something along those lines. So no, don't, in my opinion. But if it works and you can show me that it works, then do it. People have done drop buys. That's not my flavor. But again, if somebody's having success, then I'd want you to show me the success with numbers. So
this may be the only thing we maybe see differently on today's call here, Steve. So
with that, we're doing that for the next one. That'll be our
we're gonna
test
do
bed during our next
that.
webinar. How about that?
So
Love it.
we did we do a common survey, and most high producing agents will knock on doors. And when we surveyed why, they're not doing it, they're not canvassing a neighborhood. That feels like a big waste of time. Um, but it's pretty strategic on who you're going after and why, right?
Hmm.
So it would be more like, uh, here's a good example. If you're trying to increase your average sales price by 20%, because that would give you a 20% raise by doing the same amount of transactions, well, then you can look at the expireds and the FSBOs and the vacant rentals, and you can look at those and pick the ones in a price point, and you can exert a little more effort on those. But I
Hmm.
would say that it needs to be part of the omnipresence. Like, you have to have a reason for stopping by. Hey, did you get that letter I sent you?
Yep.
Hey, I tried to call 3 or 4 times. Did you get my voicemail? Now, in person, the stats showed that any agents making over $250,000 a year, 59% of them still went out and knocked on doors, but strategically,
Yeah.
right? So I pick a home, I'm going to go after that one.
Right.
So
Yeah, yeah, I maybe we unpack that next time. I'm speaking, I got three young kids. I feel like everybody who knocks on my door is always doing it during bath time or when I just got the kids down and then the dog's barking. So
yeah, yep,
that's again measurement. Show
yep,
me it works. Time, return on time.
yep,
Uh, Maybe there's a more strategic way that you can go
yeah,
about it. But that was
yeah.
great.
Love it, love it. Everybody, thank you so much. We'll have the replay link. We'll send that out to you, and be looking for some more information from Agent Legend and from REDX. Steve, thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for having us on, Curtis. Safe
All right.
travel on your flight.
Yep. Yep.
Bye.
Thank you. We'll see you.